Hey guys, we're back here with Rob. Last time he shared 17 email marketing tips. After we ended the last recording, he told me that he had 34. So as promised, we had over 100 likes on the last video. We're back for part two. Rob, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to be back for part two. And I said, I'll do it. I'll show you the remaining 17 on one condition. You guys like this video, subscribe to Chase's channel. He's so gracious with all the content he creates. And I'm excited to actually get into this one today because this is some advanced stuff. This is stuff I don't know if anybody has talked about before. So I'm really excited to get into it.
Dude, I am pumped. I cannot wait to get in. I'll let you share your screen. For people that missed the first one, definitely go watch the first one. Highly recommend. If you're here watching it now and you don't know who Rob is, Rob, do you want to tell people really quickly who you are? And then let's dive in.
Yeah, so I'm a direct response copywriter who's generated over $65 million in sales selling stuff online, which is a big number to say, but really all that means is like I kind of know what I'm talking about when it comes to email. I've worked with companies like Remeet Safety, Dr. Axe, Jump Cut, branches of Agora, and dozens and dozens more clients. And so over the years, I've just kind of kept a catalog of key lessons that I've learned in email. And so I wanted to bring some of the best ones to you guys today and in that last video. So if you missed part one, definitely hit that one up and just go check that video out because that's some of the more immediately actionable stuff. But this video is going to be some even heavy hitter stuff, like some real advanced stuff. So we'll get into this one as well.
Amazing, dude. All you, let's take it away.
Well, cool. I want to actually make sure you guys can see it. Can you see this, Chase?
Yep, I got you.
Well, cool. So part one was 17 email hacks, extremely actionable email tips, which when I ended the call, I told Chase that there were 17 more. He was like, wait, we can't do that really. But I did have one disclaimer, and this is just me being cheesy, but like, this is some advanced material inside. So if you guys missed the first one, go back to see that one and come back to this one when you're ready, because I want to cover some stuff here today that probably haven't heard talk about ever before. So tip number one, and based on the comments you guys left some last time, some people said, Rob, you forgot to label them and put numbers in them. So on this one, you will see the numbers are there. So we'll have 1 through 17 listed out for you guys. But this one is a big one. Use characters in your email. And what do I mean when I say that? You can actually take different people in your company. So the founder, the chief marketing officer, the customer support, and you can actually create them to be characters in your emails, and they can serve different functions. One of the things that brands do is that, you might get the same email from the same person or the same branded thing over time, but really, sometimes you kind of know what to expect. There's a coupon inside, it's a deal, it's a holiday sale or whatever. But a way to spike that is to change that sender line, change who is going to actually be sending these emails. And you could, one of the things that I like to do is I imagine like a sitcom. Like, why do we go and we watch these things over and over again? Because we like to see how the characters play off each other. So in the past, we've actually done things with different brands we've worked with where we'll actually have create different things within the organization. So you're going to get a behind the scenes of what's happening. So in this one, it was like, I'm the VP of operations. I've made a huge mistake. I ordered way too much product and the CEO told me I've got to clearance all this by Friday. Can you guys please help me? I want to keep my job, which is just kind of a fun way of doing it. And this worked incredibly well. This sold like over $200,000 of product in just a couple of days because it's a fun hook. It's a cool angle and people like to play along with it. Another one is like this one time we were working on a Prime Day campaign and we actually, this is a legit text that the person had gotten from their Amazon rep, which was saying, oh my gosh, we might actually sell out of all this because of it's coming down to the wire. And so we put that screenshot of the text message in the email. So getting to play off these certain things, and it creates this massive spike in engagement because people are like, wait, I'm getting behind the scenes of the company. So those are some of the key roles that we like to highlight, customer support, maybe they're, advocates for the customer, you're getting your inventory managers and things like that. But use these characters, guys. That's the reason that you can keep higher engagement and sales going along the way, because people love to be a part of, the behind the scenes stuff. They like to see how they play off of each other. Number 2, email bank account. Now, this is how you build a loyal, powerful list for years and years and years to come, because, there are lists that you get on, and this is an entire business strategy where it's essentially churn and burn, where people opt into your list and they just get deals forever. And those people unsubscribe or they buy, and it's called buy or die sequences. And a lot of brands use this strategy, and that's one way to do it. But, for a lot of the brands that Chase and I work with and things of that nature, we're trying to build, brands that really have a legacy and go on beyond even the founder's lifetime. So like, how do you do that? Well, some people say, email is like a debit card or an ATM card where you just get to go hit it and make the cash register ring. Well, that's true. But in order for it to function like a bank account, we have to treat it like one. So the way that I think about this and the way that we tell our clients to think about this is, take a look at your email calendar. And here's just a screenshot of a calendar. And look at what's happening with your emails. Are you making a deposit into that relationship bank account, or are you making a withdrawal? Because if you want to treat it like a bank account, you've got to fund it so you can make those withdrawals over time. So the ways that you can make deposits into a bank account are, sending content emails, sending goodwill emails, sending things about like updates on your organization if they donate a portion of proceeds to charity. These things are relationship building emails that allow you to go make better, deeper deposits over time. With my own personal email list, like I'll send content emails for a month before I start sending a lot of sales emails. And then I see a massive overturn in sales because I might have a relatively small list relative to some brands, but I'm able to outperform a lot of those things because I'm making deposits before I make withdrawals. Does that make sense, Chase?
Yes, love that. Sorry, I was on mute. Love that.
No, I just want to make sure I wasn't just talking in theory. But the way that you can do this on a very practical level is to actually take a look at your email calendar, look at the emails you're planning to send over 30, 60, 90 days. Just assign a value to it. Is it a positive deposit or is it a withdrawal from that bank account? On net, you want to be making a positive distribution so that you can make those withdrawals. And particularly leading up to big holiday sales, make those deposits leading up to them and you will see a massive reward.
Love it.
Cool. So tip number 3, link straight to checkout. Now, I can't believe I literally am even telling you guys this because this is something I've honestly considered creating a SaaS product around this because I don't know anyone that does this right. But the way that this is going to work is that we're going to actually take the product. So I'm going to walk you guys through a real example, and we're going to link within the email straight to checkout. We're going to remove the add to cart, anything that you're going to do, and it's going to go straight to cart. Now, a couple really cool things happen when you do this. So you reduce all that friction of the customer having to click add to order, all the blah, blah, blah. If you're going to do bundled products, they have to go click around your site, do all these things, which just creates unnecessary work on the customer. And by doing this, they're going to click it and they're automatically going to get your cart abandoned emails. So make sure you got those turned on from our previous tips. But because we're sending them straight to checkout, they're going to get the cart abandons as well. So we've seen sales go up by as much as 400% or quadruple as a result of just linking straight to checkout when we're running big holiday sales. So I'm going to walk you guys through this in real time because it's a little technical in nature, but it's a very simple process once you actually see how it works. So using Magic Spoon as an example, we're going to go to the product page of their site. So that's step 1. And you're going to go to the end of the URL and you're going to type .xml. Now, I know this seems super technical and it's going to spit back a page to you that looks like this crazy thing that I've got here as a screenshot. All you're going to care about on this is you're going to grab the thing at the bottom that says, for step 3, you're going to grab the thing at the bottom that says product integer. And that basically is the exact product code within Shopify that's going to pull that product up and actually deposit it into the cart. So here's the example with Magic Spoon. So I'm going to click this and watch what's going to happen, guys. We're going to go straight to the checkout. So I grabbed that cart and we've got the box already in the cart. And you can preload coupon codes with this as well. But think about that. Out of the email, we're right in the checkout page and it's kind of crazy what happens. So the last number here, and just when we're looking at the code, sorry to go back to this. Let me try to actually copy and paste this so you guys can see part of this as well. I want to show you guys what's kind of working. So we've got that cart in the URL and we've got the product integer. And then the other thing is the last piece of this is the quantity. So watch what we can do here. We can actually do 19 as the quantity if you wanted to do a pre-bundled thing. And now we're spending $741 on cereal. So we preloaded the cart and you can do this with an infinite number of things. So if we wanted to play around with this, you can, if you wanted to actually add other products, you can just add this little character here. I don't know what you call that one. It's like an and symbol. Is that right, Chase? And then you can grab that other product ID and then do the same thing with the quantity amount there. So this is something I've honestly considered creating a SaaS product around this, because I don't know how Shopify doesn't allow you to do this, but it can greatly reduce the amount of friction your customers are experiencing and really, really increase your checkouts, the number of checkouts, particularly on holidays, because you're like 2 clicks, you're done. Because if I was signed in here to my shop pay, it's over right there, and we're done. Well,
I
cool.
love that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's sick.
Well, cool. So let me come back to presenter mode. And so tip number 4 is how to never run out of content ideas. You know, one of the things we do with a lot of our clients, and I do this with my own personal email list, so I practice what I preach, is that I send an email almost every day, some piece of content, either 5 days of the week if you're, don't want to do the weekends, or full 7 days of the week if you really want to go all in and get real value out of your emails. But the next logical question that so many people have is they say, what do I write about? What do I write about for 7 days a week, for 30 days a month or whatever? And that can be quite overwhelming for people. And so one of the things that we've really found is that you can actually come up with unlimited content ideas if all you do is reverse your customer journey. And what do I mean by that? So you're going to create a step 1, a kind of a state where your customer or your avatar is at today. And you're going to take the end result and just write down all the steps that you can think of in between these two things. And that's your content ideas. Now, I know that sounds very, theoretical or whatever, but like for me, I run a list that helps freelance copywriters kind of, get clients, service them in a way like that. So what do? I write, state number 1, if I meet someone at the total beginner of their career, that they probably have no clients, they're interested in copywriting, they're just interested in writing. So that's my state number 1. The end result is that they're flooded with clients. They have clients coming to them, they have a line out the door, and they're really great at copywriting. They're A-lister. So things that go in between that, getting your first freelance client, that's an email. That's how to create samples that impress your clients when they ask you for these things, that's an email. How to eliminate edits when your client asks you to actually do edits on your work, that's an email. How I actually get a ton of writing done when I sign a bunch of work. How I wrote an email on how I write 12,000 words in a day. These are all emails. And if you just think about it in terms of like, I'm writing to a list of freelancers, what do I write about? I don't know. But when I see all those hundreds of bullets like written down, I actually never worry about content. I write an email every day, and I never sit down and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to write today. I literally have these things mapped out. You can do the same thing with any product journey, even something as simple as cereal. We were talking about Magic Spoon in the previous example. A lot of their customers are just interested in the keto diet. And so how do you walk that person through that journey of really walking them to the end result, which is probably healthy, fit, and enjoying cereal while they're doing keto? All those are content ideas. So that's kind of how I think about it. So number 5, and this one is something I've kind of really exploited recently. We're going to talk about leveraging loopholes, because people love getting the easy way out of things. So one of the things I do with some of my email lists is actually have a referral thing where people can they can refer people to sign up to the newsletter. This is a common thing that a lot of newsletters like Morning Brew do this as well. And one of the ways that I wanted to really entice people to use and incentivize them to use my referral program was to put the products that they can unlock, put the bonuses that they can unlock in my store as something they could buy. And recently I sent an email out where I actually highlighted, hey, there's 2 ways to actually get these things that are included in the referral program. You can actually buy them. You can pay $99 to actually buy these things in my store, or you can just refer 3 people to my newsletter. And as a result of just this one highlight, I saw a 709% increase in referrals because people loved the hack. They loved the easy way. So the way that you think about this for your brand is, thinking about the highlighting what is some type of loophole. Could you introduce a referral program into your system where, they can unlock the product for free, or and by referring a certain number of people, or pay for it themselves. So just thinking about these ways that people can get access to the secret way can have a lot of impact. And a lot of times, like we come into contact with brands who are actually doing these things behind the scenes. Like they have a rewards program, they have these things kind of not necessarily being highlighted in this way, but by showing it as like the cheat code, the way that it is kind of easy, it makes a massive difference in the output. So that's a really cool one that I tested recently. Number 6, how do you market to your whales? And by whales, I mean your big spenders on your list. You know, a lot of these brands, you know, that we work with and Chase works with, they have customers who've bought with them 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. You know, and one of the things you might think is like, okay, how do I, what is incentivizing these people? You know, how do I get more of those people on my list? And one of the things we found is they don't necessarily always care about discounts. You know, some customers are price insensitive, like they are not necessarily going to be incentivized by you just sending them coupon codes for 30% off again and again and again. But the way that you can kind of think about marketing to those people is by leveraging status over discounts. You know, this is something I actually kind of stole from the hotel industry because I like to travel and I like to stay at a lot of hotels. And we've reached a certain status within terms of like staying at different places. And I found out there was another tier. Like I thought I was actually the highest tier customer. And then I found out there was another tier and I was like, I've got to have that. And notice that wasn't like me like wanting to say like, oh, there's all these places, great places to travel. That was me seeking out a tier of status within this organization that I just wanted to have. So you got to tap into that psychology with your customers. And honestly, a lot of e-commerce brands have this at their ready. And you can do it in a super easy way. Like I've done it as simple as this. Like on the screen, you can see I just made it where someone who had purchased 3 times, I just added 2 additional stars. And I was like, you are here, go to these 2 levels. And like, that's enough. Sending those emails out can actually create a purchase just by graying them out and make it, there's not even a discount or bonus or anything incentivized. It's just like, get to the next tier of customer. You've purchased 3 times, here, go to 4, you know, and by putting it in this way, it's really kind of powerful. One resource I wanted to share with you guys is 80/20 Power Curve, 80/20curve.com. I don't know if Chase, we can link this, but you can kind of play around with this tool and it's really eye-opening when you kind of play with it and kind of see like what happens when you actually market to that really high end customer on your list. So if we say, you know, there, you can play around with it and see for yourself. But if you see there's like a total number of members, say you had an email list of 10,000, how many of those people responded? Say 1,000 people on your list actually bought the product and the average cart value was $50. So it's going to spit back this little weird curve. And it's going to be like, okay, well, this is basically what the value curve of what you're capturing today looks like. But you can see how many people would respond to a different price point. So maybe you wanted to create a product or a bundle of products that's $100, and it's going to tell you out of those number of people how many people are likely to respond to that value. And you can kind of play around with these to kind of set some goals for emails that you might send. So 447 people might buy at that $100 value, and that'll generate $44,000. But let's go even higher. Let's see what the super whales are going to do. So let's go $1,000 a cart. And remember, we're talking about playing around with checkout, straight to checkout, so we can bundle something up. How many people would respond if you built $1,000 product and told your whales about it? 30, only 30 out of your 10,000 people on your email list. But the total value of that is 30 grand. So you can play around with these things. And like, I like to think about it just because, you know, going and marketing to your whales, creating that, like those journeys for those people who are almost have like an unlimited spending power with your brand is kind of crazy to play around with. Because as we were playing with this, I'm like, how far could this go with even a list this small? Like 5,000, 4 people on your list would buy that. So just thinking about that in terms of like different price points of products, different packages and stuff of that nature is really cool. So does that make sense, Chase?
That's sick. I love that. We'll definitely link to that. So thank you.
Well, cool. So number 7, let's get into the rule of, one of the things that we see a lot of brands do is they have some basic flows turned on, but how do you know if your emails are doing any good? This is just a simple rule that we use to kind of audit email accounts and email flows, is the rule of 33-3. Now, this, you might go up or down in terms of what you are thinking and or auditing for performance, but the baseline that we like to look at is 33% open rate and 3% click rate. So when we're spot checking emails within a flow or a funnel, and particularly when we're talking about like welcome series, if we're really long, we really want to see us beating that 33% open rate and 3% click rate. And that's how we think about optimization. So in this kind of example over here, the of email 1 is the welcome email. It's like, obviously it's fine. But email 2, the open rate's a little lower than that 33, the click rate's higher. So you might consider split testing some different subject lines to get that open rate above that 30%, 33%. Email 3, it's pretty solid on the open rate, and click rate is fine. But kind of as you go down your flows and your auditing, just kind of look at this thing, because as more and more people come into your sequences, if you're falling below these benchmarks, it's going to be hard for these emails to perform at the level that you want. So that's just a quick auditing tool that you guys can use. And this can be something that if you are a freelancer or, you are running an agency, if you're going into a client's account and they actually already have a flow turned on, use this rule of 33-3 to actually know if you want to pitch this as something to potentially improve, because a lot of times it's not this high. I've seen like 1% click rates on stuff, and like, that's not very good. So email, tip number 8. So how do you make sales from an email that has no links in it? Chase, do you have any thoughts?
Do you get people to reply, or how do you do it?
Okay, so this is kind of like a ninja psychology strategy that I use a lot in our agency, and I use it in my own email list a lot, whereas basically we make people do a little bit of work, so this requires you to have a pretty good relationship with your list. So hopefully you're treating them well. But one things that I'll do sometimes is that I'll kick off a product launch, or a product will be going away, or a discount will be going away. And we'll send an email where we intentionally don't link to the product. So recently I did this with a product that I'm actually planning to put into a vault and actually not make available for sale anymore. And I just casually mention it in super small font. And I'm doing these things intentionally because your hyper engaged users are like, what is happening here? Like, something is being taken away from me. This is actually activating them rather than deactivating them. Sometimes we want to make things easy, and sometimes we want to make things hard, because people think that, doing a little work, it makes it worth it for actually taking advantage of a sale. So in this email, notice that, look how tiny that font is. But I actually sent this email out, and relative to the normal performance of sales emails that I sent, this 3x the number of orders, and it's almost immediate. How are people doing this? They're going back to old emails, they're clicking in them, they're going to find that deal, because your super fans, they love this stuff. They love the secret, they love the in-group feel. So do this, test this out. Try to send an email where you don't put any links in it, but you casually mention your sale. You might be so shocked to see what happens. And some of those are sometimes the best buyers, because where they're super hyper engaged, they're going to probably never refund your product. So that's an interesting one to test. Number 9, this one's super easy. Just do this today, do this tomorrow, whenever you can, get back into your CRM. Increase your font size. This is something that it's kind of weird, particularly with audiences that are older. Now, I look at my mom when she's like on her smartphone, and she's not super old. She's in her late 40s. But she can't see 12-point font. Like, she literally cannot see the email. It's like she's like zooming in, getting her glasses, getting a magnifying glass. And I'm like, okay, this is data. This is informing me what needs to happen. But honestly, a lot of us, like, if an email is super small when we open it, like a lot of the times, like, we just like instantly click out of it, right? So we tested this where with a welcome email, where all we did, we just changed nothing else. And all we did was change the font size. And the click rate increased by almost 160%. It went from 5% to 13% just by increasing the font size. So it went from 12 to 18. Now you can play around with that. I think there's upper limits around like 20. I wouldn't go beyond that. But a lot of people are just using the out-of-box version of what Klaviyo is doing. And so they're sending it at like 11 or 12 font. Go up in size, and people can actually read your stuff, which means they can buy your stuff. So do this one today. It's super powerful for almost every brand.
I love that. Yeah, Rob, for me, for my newsletter, always use 16 font. I always use 16-point font.
That's perfect. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, it's way more readable on mobile. And particularly if you're on like an iPad, like it's not a ton of your users, but like if it's like really small, these people are done. They're just out of the email instantly. Oh, cool. Number 10, I call the button buster. And that's just a fun way of kind of saying, play with your button copy, make it interesting. Like we see so many times where brands just have like shop now, learn more. Like, come on, aren't we all copywriters? Can't we do a little bit better here? Sometimes we'll actually use the button copy to actually play with users. And like some of our super fans will actually look forward to the button. They'll be like, oh my gosh, the buttons today like really got me going. Like click here to finish what you started. It was one of the we recently used in some cart abandon emails. Grab the goods, pick your flavor. I want it. Like these are copy that like when you see it, it makes you, we're not just like blind to the ad of it. Like we're like, okay, this is fun. This is engaging. We've seen it sometimes up to double or even triple click-through rates just by testing the buttons. So like, don't view this as a throwaway piece of the copy. Like don't just push shop now or learn more, play with it. Think of how you can actually use something that's going to be creative, engaging, and honestly, something your customers look forward to seeing your CTAs. How many of us would be excited about that? Cool. So number 11 is webinars for ecom. And I put a question mark there because like, a lot of times, like if you're in this direct response community, you've probably heard about people doing really cool things with webinars. But for a lot of agencies and brands, or for a lot of agencies and freelancers, it's like, how do I script a webinar for a cereal company? Or how do I, get a webinar created when all I'm really in charge of doing is just the emails? But I want that effect. I want that high AOV. I want that like almost instant conversion rate. I want search traffic surrounding my product. And one things that we've tested, and like there's been some people, I'll shout him out. Austin Dixon is behind me kind of learning this strategy, is using webinars, using actually podcast interviews that founders from your companies go on, because a lot of these companies that you guys will be working with will have founders go on a podcast. They'll like share the mission of the company. Step one of a webinar. They'll talk about the products, how cool value they are. They'll even make a soft plug at the end. Cool. Step 3 of a webinar. So we're basically building a webinar with a piece of content, like a podcast. But so many of us don't think about it that way, but you have to engineer it the right way, right? So you link out to this podcast. You build a sequence of emails that follows up with people specifically based on that engagement with the podcast. You might treat it as if it was actually a webinar. You might send your, did you hear this part in this part of the section of the webinar? Did you make sure to grab this section of the podcast? Did you make sure to grab the goods at the end? We've actually included a deal. It sounds kind of crazy, but one thing you might consider playing around with, particularly for e-commerce brands, because getting to bond with the founder and getting them bought into the mission of the company can really, really spike engagement for, your customers. So just test it out. Particularly if you have a podcast your founder has gone on recently, it can make a big, big difference. Does that make sense, Chase? Okay, sweet. So number 12, how to create a perpetual motion machine. Now, I put a cheesy graphic on this one because I just wanted to, and I wanted to make this one look kind of fun for you guys. But look, what I'm saying is so many things end in dead ends. And by that, I mean, like you get to the confirmation page and you're just done with the checkout process. You get your confirmation email and there's nothing to go in there. You download the freebie resource when you first get on the website, and that's where it stops. But one thing that you might be shocked to see is how much these feedback loops can be super powerful by having no dead ends. This is kind of a philosophy that I've lived and died, not died by yet, but I would if I could. But this is a philosophy I've been drilling into my brain and again, is there's no way for anything to be a dead end. So it seems kind of weird to optimize for these things, but what you want to do is in every touch point with your potential customers, build a connection loop of some sort, because some percentage of people are going to take you up on it, and it creates nearly infinite feedback loops. Like one thing that I have is like where people can respond to an email on my welcome series, they get a download. And at the end of that download, they have to read the whole thing, is that I say, hey, you got this little resource that showed you how I generated $210,000 with an email telling people not to buy something. do you want to see the full funnel? And all you have to do is refer someone to this newsletter and screenshot me that you did it. And I'll send you the full funnel that I wrote for this brand. Now, you might think like, okay, there's like 7 steps in between these things. There's like, okay, they have to open the email, they have to download the resource, they have to read to the end of the resource, and they have to actually refer someone to do it, and they have to screenshot it and send the email back. It's a lot of work, right? But every day someone does this. And every day someone personally recommends my newsletter to a friend who then comes into my ecosystem and is very valuable to my business. Now, this same philosophy should be carried out through everything that you do. Confirmation emails, post-purchase emails, every single thing needs to have a perpetual motion machine because actually at the end of the next resource that I send them, same thing again. So it's like, it's far less people at that point, obviously, but still build that perpetual motion machine where it's just a couple, look how short this copy is. But it's probably added 150 people to my email list in the past 30 days. Your brand might even get more scale with that type of thing. Just
so cool.
Build those
Love
things
that.
in. Yeah,
Love that.
very cool. So number 13, the anti-funnel. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I find most of the cool things I do in marketing are basically finding the thing that every single other person is doing and just doing the complete opposite. And that's one thing I really like to do. It's just because it stands out. It's different. Customers engage with it again, and maybe you come up with your own philosophy for something. So I come up with something I call the anti-funnel. And this is something we try with brands all the time, where we make a list of, the characteristics of a funnel. What does that look like? Daily emails. The item is getting cheaper. There's a discount. There's a time-sensitive coupon code. And the content is almost exclusively focused on the product. So what we do sometimes is we build an anti-funnel where we actually deliver all the content that we were planning to give to the customers at once. And we do that in a kind of unique way where we interlink a couple pages together. And by the end, they're actually going to be able to see the item for sale. The item actually gets more expensive over time. So I've done things where I've actually increased the price of my product by $1 per day. So it's incentivizing action in the opposite way. And you might think, who's going to buy it the day after you actually increase it by $1? You'd be shocked to know, like, a lot of people actually still buy that because, you have to envision buying. It's not just not everyone is looking for a deal. Sometimes it's an emotional experience for people. It's fun. So kind of thinking about turning funnels on its head. Might try that with your next launch. Now, this is another one where it's, a lot of times it's just time sensitive. We're trying to do it where it's deadline driven. You might try a funnel where it's always open. As we talked about with the perpetual motion machine, you might have a series of things that actually lead to an outcome page at the end where people are able to get to an offer that's always open and it never goes away, but they had to do some hard work to get there. And instead of focusing the content exclusively on the product, why not focus on the customer and the story of the brand or something like that? We've actually done this before with e-commerce brands where we actually just tell one story a day about a customer through an email series. Almost no mention of the product, just mentioning it and how the customer uses it, but it's not focused on the product. It's focused on the customer, and the identity bonding that happens in those types of funnels is insanely powerful. So kind of flips it on its head, but you might try all these things at once, and the funnel you end up with is very different than what most people are used to, but it's very, very cool. So number 14, turn your entire email into an image. Now, this is freaking a weird one, but it's kind of something that I like to do. Not all the time because you want to use this very sparingly, but what I'll do is I'll actually load the email in Klaviyo or MailChimp, and I'll actually screenshot the whole email to where if anyone just taps on it with their thumb or, just clicks anywhere on the thing, they go to the outcome page that I wanted them to. Now, this is very dangerous to do as a general practice, but in times where you're doing a big site-wide sale or like free events, it's massively powerful. You might see an increase of up to 50% more clicks just because people are getting driven to the outcome page almost automatically because people just tap on things on their phone. So use it sparingly because you're going to hyperlink the whole email, but it's very powerful. Like there's no actual buttons here. There's actually only a screenshotted email, but it's kind of a cool one to test.
Dude, this is hilarious. I agree with your disclaimer, but this is so funny.
Yeah, it's one particularly for like, so back in the February, I did this event for Freelance Copywriting Summit. So it's totally free. And most people who are opening email actually want to get to the thing, but they don't have to find a button in the email. It's just go straight to the page. So number 15. So one thing I'm always doing when I'm thinking about coming up with unique and creative things for email is like looking at a strategy that works somewhere else and then trying to apply it to the medium that I manage, which is email. So, one thing when we think of Twitter, we think of just the solo tweet. And I see threads just kind of taking off. People, you might think of Twitter as the medium where, only 140 characters define it. But look at you, Chase. You post these awesome threads where like it's probably taking you like 30, 40 minutes to actually create this thing where it's like it's like paragraphs, probably 800 words. Sometimes I've seen some of your threads go on, which is really awesome. But why is that working? And that's a question I have. So like, could we apply that same philosophy to emails, to where, there's a short version where people who just want the base, get the base, but can keep going if they want to. So one thing I've kind of been experimenting with is interlinking literally just Google Docs at the end of some of my emails where I just have these PSs. They go on for pages and people make it all the way to the end because what do we see? It's that consumption long tail where some of the consumers are just going to keep going. And so kind of applying that philosophy to your emails can be really cool. If you want to build special offers at the end, or if you want to build, outcome pages that have, different product highlights and things of that nature, you can use it as an actual sales sequence in the same way that you think of a Twitter thread, but applying that philosophy to an email. So that's one thing I've been experimenting with. That's kind of cool.
Love that.
So awesome. Number 16, do not buy this email. Now, this is something I am like almost trademarked for doing at this point, but I love to write emails where I tell people specifically, if you meet these characteristics, do not buy this product. And what do we see is a massive increase in sales as a result. Here's one example of one I wrote for a brand called Jump Cut. It actually generated over $210,000 from one email where I listed out 6 reasons and over 2,000 words why someone should not buy this product. Now, it's a very high ticket item, so your mileage may vary, but sometimes people love when you are honest, transparent, and actually upfront about the realistic nature of a product. Sometimes we work with brands where it's a health and fitness product, and there's this tendency in our space where everyone wants to make everything seem super easy, super clean cut, and like just perfect solution. But the consumer has a little bit of abrasiveness to this type of thing. So when you're honest about these things, and sometimes you just openly tell people, the facts, people appreciate it a lot. And sometimes we've seen, we'll sometimes do this for supplements where it's like, it's this pre-qualification thing where it's like, you're basically saying like, if you're not going to put in the work and all this type of stuff, it's a takeaway sale, right? And people love that honesty and transparency from brands. So something to test out. Like think about what your competitors are doing, where they're making it the best thing in the world, and own up to some of the shortcomings. Massive increase in sales as a result. So number 17, and this is one I put at the end because it's the hardest to grasp, but I actually believe it's possibly the most powerful. Now, up on this bookshelf here, I have a book from Robert Cialdini, which most of us marketers have probably read. It's called Influence. You might not know this, but he actually wrote another book called Persuasion. And he said that if he had to put them in order, the 6 principles of influence would actually be behind the elements of persuasion. And so persuasion, what he says is basically just the idea that what you do in the moments preceding a sale actually influence the outcome even more than you may think. Now, there's a ton of experiments in the book where he talks about, different things that you can do to actually, pre-frame someone to where they're more likely to buy something. But this is something that if you are running a brand that has the ability to create content in any capacity, can be super powerful. Now, one example of this is, for example, last year I was planning on rolling out a coaching product. So all I started to do was in my emails, I started to link out to some really cool resources around coaching to get people thinking about this thing. And it's called the sleeper effect because as you're going to sleep, you're being exposed to these ideas, and it's kind of turning over in your head before you're ever even thinking about it. And so before the offer is being made, you're essentially getting agreement in advance. And so sometimes you can see a massive uptick in sales when you open up your offer, or you put a spotlight on your product, or you roll out a new line of clothing or whatever that may be, by just kind of leaking this content out that's kind of exposing your customers to this idea over time before they're ready for it, or before you're even ready to make a value exchange. Can see a really, really big uptick in sales. I was very nervous about doing this because like I didn't want someone to be so primed that they go and seek out a coach, but then I opened up my coaching offer and sold it out in a day. So test this out. Choose some content that is, related to the things that you want your customers to do. And that sleeper effect can really take hold in the moments that you're not marketing to them. So as all 17, we did 17 more. I'll stop sharing my screen, but I don't know if you're on, Chase still.
Rob, this is amazing, dude. I am so appreciative of the content first and foremost, and I really love the way that you explained it and really your energy. You were smiling the whole time, which made me smile. So thank you so much, genuinely, for being here. The fact that this was free is even kinder of you. So for people that wanted to connect with you, it was the kingsofconversion.com. Is that what it is?
Yeah, and if you guys want it, mention that you came from Chase, and I'll actually share this slide deck with you because I know we went through a lot of these things fast, and some of you guys want to take notes. So I will be happy to actually send you the slide deck and welcome a conversation in my inbox. So Chase is trying to get me on Twitter. So if you guys want to follow me over there, Rob Writes Copy. And I promise to start creating some threads over there.
Yeah, please do. So go sign up for his list. I mean, the fact now that he's done 2 of these, like you know that he knows his stuff. I'm vouching for him. Please go sign up for him. Hit him up, get these decks, follow him on Twitter. Rob, I'll drop all your links. Early announcement, Rob and I are going to try to work on some free stuff in the future, conferences, webinars, summits. So we'll make sure you guys know about it. And thank you guys so much for being here. And Rob, really appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man.
All right, man. Bye.